Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time seeing me, my name is Kaylee. I'm a painter and graphic novelist, and I'm using this series as a way to document the process of my second graphic novel. My intention behind these videos is to hopefully provide something entertaining to watch, but also some inspiration and some encouragement in your own creative practice. I feel like I say this in every video, but you do not need to label yourself an artist to have a robust creative practice that heals you, that fulfills you, that brings you some peace. If you haven't seen one of these videos before, this graphic novel I'm showing you is basically a surreal memoir of my high school days. And what we're exploring in the story right now is the process of masking oneself in order to be more palatable in society. So this is something that I believe we all do when we are in middle school and high school, around that age. We all experience it differently, but we are all encouraged to hide aspects of ourselves and aggrandize others that are more celebrated. The reason that I'm really interested in exploring this topic and exploring the process through which we develop a public identity is because I think that we're all walking around with some level of cognitive dissonance when it comes to the world, but when it comes to ourselves especially, because we've created these aspects of ourselves that we know to show to the public, and then at the same time we have this other inner self that we may or may not even pay attention to or make space for in our world. For me, the process of creating this graphic novel series has been absolutely paramount in easing that feeling of dissonance between my public and private self. And by public and private, I don't mean like how a president or a celebrity would mean that. I'm talking more so about the aspects of myself that haven't really seen the light of day or hadn't before this book. If you like this video and you want to go back and see the other ones, they're all in a playlist, but you don't have to have seen those in order to enjoy this. Without further ado, let's just get into these pages. So this is the page that we left off on last time, and the image is of the protagonist's inner self lighting a candle in the darkness of her inner worlds. And the reason that her inner world is dark is because she's just eclipsed it by putting this mask up against her face. Like I said, it's a metaphor, it's surreal. But the narration reads, "In darkness, the way home is lit." Okay. So the next panel doesn't have any narration. It just shows the inner self in this inner world, having lit the candle, standing at the window, and zooming out to show the inner world in darkness, except for the stars, of course. And now we're back to the protagonist holding this mask against her face. The previous narration had read, "In darkness, the way home is lit, but I was blind." We see her holding this mask up against her face, right? And her eyes are also covered by the mask. Something that I want this page to represent is how when we are masking ourselves, usually it's so that others will perceive us in a certain way. But something that we don't realize is that when we mask ourselves, it also affects our perception of ourselves and just our perception of things in general. And so that's why I chose to show a mask that has the eyes covered. The narration, "But I was blind," speaks to this concept because the way home is lit. Our deepest selves never give up on us, and they never go away. It's just a matter of us not being able to see them and doing these things like masking ourselves that makes it impossible for us to see these things, even when they always exist. So that's a really important thing that I want to touch on. It's in this case, it's a sad reality because obviously she can't see. Ultimately, to me, it's a hopeful perspective because it reminds us that we all have the ability and the responsibility to find our way back home to ourselves, and that candle is never going out. So many experiences in my life have shown me that a lot of the time we're blocking our own sight and we're blocking our own way back to ourselves, and so that's what this page represents and speaks to. I loved painting this mask, especially with these hands, because I feel like they're elegant, but they're very creepy, and there's something uncanny and eerie about them, which is the vibe that I want this subject to be steeped in, because masking oneself is something scary and there are consequences. All right. Okay, so this one says, my own sleight of hand deceived me. This was really fun because I've been trying to do different things compositionally. At first I was thinking I might need to break this up into 2 panels so that I can show this hand reaching for the spool of thread and then starting to unwind the thread from it. But then I thought it would be fun to have that subsequent action shown in the shadow of the hand that's initially reaching for the thread. I definitely want to take more creative risks when it comes to how I lay out these pages. So this was fun. All right, no narration, just some creepy hands threading a needle. I just really wanted to focus on the gesture of the hands and make it kind of eerie and spooky, like I said. So we've got the hand about to thread this needle. I want these actions and gestures to go kind of slowly, very creepy, because what it's leading up to is her stitching this mask onto her face and not being able to get it off. Because I think that's ultimately what ends up happening to us. I've talked about this in other videos, but I believe that the intention behind masking ourselves is often because we feel that we want to protect who we are on the inside. And in order to protect and preserve ourselves, we have to subscribe to the values of the society we live in order to survive. And I want to keep that in mind, and I want to show that these things that we've done, and especially when we're growing up out of protection, we find later in life that not only are they no longer serving us or protecting us, they're actually eroding us from the inside and really hurting us. When we realize this, it's such a difficult thing to realize. It's so hard to admit and to really fully grasp that our own actions, especially when they're good intentioned at the get-go or something that we feel like we have to do just to survive, when we find out that those things are actually hurting us, it's so heartbreaking and it feels like self-betrayal. And so I really want to explore that process in a way that doesn't shy away from the gravity of it and the pain, but at the same time really highlights that love of self and willingness to protect oneself. When we're kids, we don't really know what's going on. We don't really know what we're doing, and we're just doing what we feel like we have to do. If we can see the good intentions behind these actions that end up hurting us, and we can see why we did it, we can see why it's not helping us, it can be easier to let go of shame and blaming ourselves and further hurting ourselves, and instead just focusing our energy on integrating all aspects of ourselves back into us, which is absolutely possible and what I think we're all here to do and help each other do. Okay, so this one's still in progress. I still need to add a little bit of shading on it, but the narration reads, "It happened so slowly, it was barely detectable." We can go so long without even knowing that our actions have negative consequences. Here we're kind of building up to the gore to come. I don't want it to be really gory, but I do want it to be as creepy as I can possibly make it while still focusing on the overall subject matter and how we can not only understand this, but understand it in order to move through it, grow from it, and not wallow in it or just get freaked out by it. Does that make sense? Okay. I started drafting this one out. I'm excited because I'm going to use these scissors here to break this up into 3 panels. So I think I'm going to have like a different image in here, here, and here. Again, I've been trying to get outside of my comfort zone when it comes to composition. So that's what that is. You'll see it in next month's video. Alright, I'm a little behind schedule because a lot has been happening, and I've also been working on some fun commissions, and I also have a day job, so there's that. If you've kind of fallen off your creative practice, or it's something that you would like to get into or get back into, something that I was reminded of this past month was it doesn't really matter how long you've been out of your creative practice, because as soon as you just get back into it, it all comes back. You know, so if you're feeling a little overwhelmed and you're feeling a little like, I just haven't had any time to get into this, I totally understand. All it takes is one little art night to write some ideas down, to get started on something. Something that I find over and over and over again is that I don't need to have completed something. I don't need something to have come to fruition fully in order for me to feel back in the game. All I need is an idea that I'm excited about and the knowledge that I'm going to follow it through. If you have felt off your game for a little bit, don't worry, no problem. Even just watching a video like this is still you actively contributing to your creativity, getting inspiration, getting some encouragement, getting some motivation, and that shouldn't be overlooked. It's always a lot of fun to sit down with you and show you some of the things that I've been working on, and also talk about them, because painting and drawing has always been really cathartic for me, and it's helped me through some really difficult times, and it helps me in my daily life just try and make sense of things, try and make sense of myself, of the world around me. And what makes me really happy is to create something tangible that represents the belief that I have, the faith that I have, something that I look back on when I feel doubt or when I feel fear, something that can remind me of what's true and what I want to live my life knowing. And I hope that I can provide that for other people who resonate with my work. If it does help you, that makes me so happy. As always, I love hearing what you're working on in the comments if you want to let us know. I really appreciate you being here. I love making these videos and can't wait to see you next time. Take care.